So thank you so much for joining to another episode of Teen Talks. And we are here with season 2 and episode 2 powered by Inertia Teens. And today's episode is with Mahnoor Khan, who is such a wonderful person. And I'm so happy to have you here with us today. And your
Thank
work
you
is
for
so
having me,
brilliant.
Samina. Oh, thank you. Thanks so
And I
much.
really adore your design so much.
That's so nice. Thank you so much for saying that.
So can you please start off by introducing us and telling
Yeah,
us a little more about you and what you do?
sure. Yeah. So my name is Mahnoor. I'm currently primarily based out of Toronto, and I run an interior decor and design business. And I also run a nonprofit for South Asian artists. It's called Virasat Toronto. And with that, the idea is to, and with both actually the businesses or the nonprofit that I have, the idea is to create spaces where people can feel safe and comfortable and can be a point for gathering of community.
Yes, that makes sense, and you're doing a great job doing that. And
Thank
as a
you.
designer, when you started out, did you feel that something like COVID-19 would come and affect all of this? And do you think there is something that you expect from 2021, seeing all the previous year's experiences?
So I actually started my the Virasat stuff we started right before COVID, but I started my design business during COVID. And so yeah, 100% was expecting and kind of realized what was happening because and I actually started the business because I realized that um I may have a sense of how to create functional and aesthetically pleasing spaces around me, but not like that's not a skill that everyone has. And in COVID, we were spending so much more time at home, and we need our homes now to not just be places that you come and sleep, but also, they're your offices. That's where you exercise. If at all you're able to entertain, that's where you entertain. So your homes are your primary everything now. So they need to function for you and you need to feel happy there. So I thought that I could help people do that. And so that's kind of why I started it in the first place.
I think that is such a great thing. And first of all, that is such a good thing for you to start something during the pandemic itself, where our main priority was just surviving. So, were there
Yeah.
any changes that you saw in your home after the pandemic hit? Like, I know that I was not aware with so many things which were there in my home. And how do you
Mm-hmm.
use it? Because we were used to thinking of home as just a place to rest rather than,
Mm-hmm.
work in. So how was that
Yep.
experience for you?
I went through so many transitions like at the same time. I had quit my job right before COVID, and so like so many things happened for me at the same time. So very quickly, my home had to adapt, and then we also moved, right? So and then I started living with my partner. So my home had to very quickly adapt to some very intense changes. And I realized that before that, we didn't have to be as smart about using the space that we have and storage and all of that stuff because like you said, we were only coming home to sleep or that kind of thing. Now I needed to make sure that not only was it aesthetically pleasing, it also had to be functional. So yeah, for sure, very, very quickly, my home had to do that. And because let's say I live, I live with another human being in a very small space, the idea that it needed to work for both people and it needs to provide some level of privacy between the two people and also be a place where we come together, but also we need time away from each other. We're both working from home. So how do you do all of that in a very, very small, like not even 500 square foot of space was definitely a challenge. So my home had to quickly adapt to that. Yeah. And that's actually something that I've been helping with a lot of my clients with, because that's a problem everyone's facing right now. People are
Yes.
sharing spaces with people, and these spaces are feeling more and more cramped. You know, so, and then I know a lot of my friends just had kids. So like, how do you make that space work and do so many things for you?
Yes, that does make sense. And I think
Yeah.
that would have been very challenging. Like, I understand if
Yes.
me and my sister have a meeting at the same time, it's such a chaos because, borrowing things and everything is
Yes.
just so chaotic right now. But then I think
Yes.
we have slowly adjusted to the whole working at home situation.
Yes, absolutely. And then you also start realizing that now the spending priority changes, right? So before, your home wasn't the only thing or the primary thing that you were spending money on. You're going outside, you're eating, you're, meeting people, socializing. And so, but now that you're not doing that, your funds can also get diverted towards making those changes in your house and doing those small things that make your life just a little bit more comfortable, right? Just like small things which didn't bother you as much before. Like, I was just thinking that I wanted to talk to my landlord and see if she would change the faucet of my sink and make it, one of those extended long neck things, because just those
Yes.
small changes in your interior can go such a long way in helping you relax and make small, odd tasks easier for you, you know?
Yes, that does
Yeah,
make sense. And I
yeah,
think with design, it is always the thing that it should look aesthetically pleasing and do the
yes,
job as well. And I
yes,
have seen so many things like that used in home decor. I don't have a lot of idea about that, but then people
yes,
used to keep certain things which weren't as useful as it would have been like in a functional way. But I think with the
yes,
whole pandemic situation, people are focusing more on things which look pleasing and serve its purpose as well, if that
yes.
makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. And one thing I keep telling all my clients or any of my friends who ask me for help is that you need to really declutter, right? So another thing that COVID has done for all of us has refocused our priorities, right? So we've rejudged them, reanalyzed them. And so in that same way, you need to, just how you've maybe done that for your job or, that kind of thing, you have to do that for, let's say, your wardrobe, and then everything around you. If it's like, I'm gonna like do a Marie Kondo moment here, but like, if it's either not something that you absolutely need or is providing an immense amount of joy to you, you need to let it go, right? Because our brains are like a direct, and like how they are feeling and functioning are a direct result of the space around you. So if your space is cluttered and if it's not organized, you're going to feel cluttered and not organized. And I'm feeling that way these days because, and I'd show you my space, but it's a complete mess because we just moved. And so there's boxes everywhere, and there's just, and so, and because the moving process is always so painful. But I know that the minute I am able to get, the things I need to get and put everything away, and the house comes together in the way that it needs to, I will feel better. So yeah, yeah,
That would be such a big coincidence. I was just taking down notes and I was writing the lines the same thing about cluttering. And I have
yeah,
heard the TED Talks, but then I was not remembering the name correctly. But then I was
yeah,
just going to ask you that question about this.
mm,
And I think
yeah,
because students are also staying at their homes and, it is a workplace for them as well as a resting place. So, what would be your advice for them to maintaining that slight boundary? Having
mm-hmm,
getting your time and space to rest as well as getting a space to work where you can work
mm-hmm,
efficiently and rest good all in a good
mm-hmm.
way. So how do you think teens can achieve that?
So okay, so there's so many things you can do depending on the situation you're in. So let's talk about someone that has a dorm room or it only has a one bedroom where that's where they sleep and that's where they also study, etc. So I will highly recommend that the minute you wake up, make your bed. It doesn't have to look fancy. It doesn't, like, by the way, like, change your sheets very regularly because they are a cesspool of germs. So like change it at least like once a week. And then, whatever, don't get like extra pillows or anything. It doesn't have to look fancy, but you have to kind of wake up and just, clear up your bed and just make your bed, right? And then if ideally you should have a table and a chair to work at, because like, and I do this all the time. I keep saying this to people, but like I sit on my couch and work. You shouldn't do that. It's really bad for your back. But let's say even if you do that, like try to keep separate, even if it's in the same room, separate spaces from your bed. So don't work on your bed. Come to your bed only when it's time to rest. And like declutter as you go. So don't wait for your room to become a mess and for then you to kind of keep looking at it and for then it to become like a big deal and then for you to have to take a lot of time out to fix it. Like if you put, have a spot for everything. And oh my God, I sound like my mother because she used to say this to us when we were kids, like apni har cheez ko uski jagah pe rakho, like put everything where it belongs, right? So like have organizers, right? So have like a mug for your pens or something or the other. And there's a lot of organizing solutions that, let's say if you have drawers, you can get like a lot of these like small baskets, which when put together are really good organizing tools. So, and assign a spot for everything. And once you're done using it, put it back there. So that way you won't have to do a huge push every time to do cleaning, right? You'll be cleaning as you go. And a huge thing to remember is that dust is actually really terrible for you. And we as younger people don't realize this, but it can take a huge toll on your health. So keep your space like dust free. So at least once a week or something, like take a small duster and clear up your shelves and such, because it can be really bad for like breathing. So yeah.
Yes, that's absolutely true. I live in a desert, so I am very aware with the dust and everything
Yeah.
related to that. And the thing you said about using a thing and keeping it back, maybe when I was a kid, I did not do it. And like I think all South Asian parents say that. The
Yeah.
same phrase, same phrase. I was so shocked. And now I think I'm always keeping, things at their places. But
Yeah.
still, sometimes I'm unable to find it. And then our parents or moms will be like, they know exactly where a thing is. I don't know
Yeah.
how, but then they know exactly where it is. And
Yeah.
that is how they manage the whole, organize everything. So that's a very
Yeah.
good advice. And I feel like certain times I take everything and start, studying in bed, maybe because the
Yeah.
weather, maybe in winters, that's a thing.
Yeah. No, it's, I mean, it's okay to do that, right? But like, it's just also, you just have to recognize what your body's telling you. So your body
Yes.
will tell you that I have like a slight backache, or I feel groggy, or I just feel foggy. I just don't feel motivated. And you have to recognize, and it takes time and it takes a lot of listening to yourself and to your body to recognize what things do what to your body. So eventually you will prefer not being in bed when you're working, because you will realize that actually you don't like it. You think you like it, but your body doesn't like it. And your brain doesn't want to function really well when you're in bed, So at the end of the day, I think your entire life is a process of just understanding yourself and learning about your body and your brain. And so, but it's good to know where to look, right? So look for signs of how your body reacts to certain things. Sunlight is great for you. You have, like, we're almost like plants. You need to drink water, you need to have sunlight. So sit in a room where there is sun, because your brain will function better when it has sun in that room. Surround yourself with a plant or two. That's really good for you, right? So, and you start recognizing these things when you start noticing them.
Yes, that's wonderful. And I think about the plants and everything, that is
Yeah.
something which with COVID, we have to adapt to certain things to
Yeah.
make ourselves live in a wonderful place. And
Yeah.
moving to the next question, home is something that we define it. So what would be your ideal definition of home? As a place, or as a place that you live in, or as a place that you have been living in? And this has
Hmm.
changed so much in recent times because of COVID-19. And you can say that humans are so much of fleeting natured, you can say. We move from country to country, and especially with immigrant kids, this often happens is that they have a lot of trouble accepting a place as a home. So what would you tell us about that?
It's taken me so long to figure this part out, right? Because as you said, just like you, my family's from somewhere else. We've moved so many times. You keep chasing this idea of home, and it takes. I think at the end of the day, it takes a level of investment, mental and physical and financial, to make that space feel like home. So, so my suggestion, and this is directly tied into, let's say, in my interior practice as well, is that wherever you go, don't treat it like a temporary place, right? Don't think of it like, um, oh, I'm only going to be here for a year, so I'm not going to invest in nice sheets or uh, whatever, like whatever you want to get it, right? Um, and I mean, do it smartly for sure and within your means, but like, just because you're gonna not be in one home for the rest of your life does not mean that you don't make it look and function like you really want it to. So I just moved into a rental unit, but I'm creating like a walk-in closet for myself. I'm doing it in a very small budget. I'm not doing anything fancy, but I still need, I don't want to just hang my clothes in an awkward way just because I'm going to live here for a year or two, right? And that's very important, um, to have that sense of belonging. At the end of the day, your home will be anywhere where you emotionally invest in. And yeah, so I actually used to know this woman. I still know her. She travels a lot. And what I really appreciated about her was that everywhere she'd go, she'd take like a few things, like like a blanket or something that she cares a lot about, and like some pictures and whatever, and she'd put them like with some fairy lights and whatever. And these are lightweight things and you can easily take them with you. And that would make her feel more comfortable wherever she'd go. And the first thing she'd do when she'd arrive at in a new city, even if it was only for a month or a couple of weeks, she'd put that up, because you need to feel comfortable. At the end of the day, your home is the place, or should be the place, that makes you feel comfortable and makes you feel safe. So keep a few things, that help you do that.
That's such a good advice. And I think after a long time, even I realized that. And, till a certain point, I felt that financially owning a space is what makes it home. But then,
Mm-hmm.
you can make a rented house your home and feel more comfortable than you have ever been. So,
Yeah.
like you said, owning certain things. And I think, memories attached to a place also make it a home. That's just
Yeah.
my opinion. And I think that some people think that shifting and then not owning a place is something which makes something a home and not. But then you can change that with your emotional connections, like you had said. And one more thing,
Mm-hmm.
moving on to the next question. I i have seen and read it somewhere that interior designing does depend a lot on your budget. And
Mm-hmm.
designing is something which is financially influencing how you like what is your budget and what you can afford. So were there any times that you felt that this could be something that affects a lot of people in making their home?
I don't think so. Because of course, like I'm not gonna say that your budget means nothing or whatever, but you can always make a home comfortable, right? We're living in a world where Facebook Marketplace is a huge thing, right? You can literally get like a free couch or like a very cheap couch off of Facebook Marketplace. Um, there's just so many, like, you can go to vintage stores, you can make stuff yourself, you can literally just paint a wall yourself. You know, in Canada especially, we're so used to doing everything ourselves, and I taught myself how to, you know, like, do some handiwork, because getting someone to, let's say, help you put stuff up is expensive. But it's so easy to learn this stuff. It's not very hard. Ask people for help around you. Look at YouTube, right? It's really not very hard. At the minimum, you can, like, paint a wall, right, and hang some pictures, right? And that, there you go. You've already started feeling better about your space, right?
Yes,
And I literally just helped a friend do his room on, like, I wouldn't, like, there was no budget, literally no budget. And all we did was rearrange his furniture, paint a wall, put up some shelving, and put up all of his existing things in just, like, a nicer, more organized way. And that's it. There you go, right?
yes.
So, like, you when you have money, of course you can do whatever you want to, but even when you don't, you just have to get a little creative.
That's such a good advice for young teenagers, because I feel that
Yeah,
so many people I know prefer something which is more expensive rather than, doing what is in their budget and making it more aesthetically pleasing and comfortable.
yeah.
And just because
It's
something
because
is
we
very
it's because we
expensive doesn't mean it serves your
yeah,
purpose. And yeah, continue.
it's because we watch our parents, right? And the way our parents make homes is a certain way. So we start thinking that the only way you can actually have a nice home is if it's a certain size. If we, like our moms, spend XYZ amount of money getting some really nice handcrafted artisanal this or that. And I was there. I understand that because I've been there. But then slowly you start realizing that just because they are able to and can afford to do things a certain way, and we being younger people and you guys being teenagers, you're not able to do that, does not mean that you can't get creative, right? It's still as nice, right?
Yes, that makes sense. And do
Yeah.
you think running a business was very tough for you? And especially businesswomen. And I feel our South Asian community, there is some kind of guilt which comes with that. I have seen so many
Yeah.
teenagers feeling this. And how did you feel about that? And did you feel like at a point you were being judged? And if so, how did you face everything?
I mean, is our entire community is built around people judging people, right? So it's, of course, and you have all of these preconceived notions of what you think your life needs to look like, and that's not your idea. That idea is coming from your experiences with the neighbor auntie or your mom's friend or this or that, or because their daughter is a doctor, or like whatever. So you start thinking that success needs to look like a certain thing. Your house needs to look a certain way, your car needs to look a certain way, and but I did that, right? I did that for a very long time. But when I started my business was a point when I just couldn't do that anymore and be happy. And I realized that what happiness looks like for me. So it's like this happens everywhere, but especially in our culture where sorry, excuse me. Yeah. Yeah. So especially in our culture where every we are told everything, right? How to feel about everything. And the idea is that you need to figure it out for yourself. And you need to try really hard not to care about what other people say about you, even if it's your own family and your parents, because most people are not saying it for the right reasons, but let's say your family may be saying it for the right reasons, but they also don't know what they're talking about, right? Because let's say your mom can be a doctor or your dad can be an engineer or something or the other, but that may not be for you, right? And that's what I realized for myself.
That's such a good advice for young teenagers, and I really
Yeah.
agree to the auntie situation and everything.
Yeah.
The The best thing you can do is just stop caring about it and go for your happiness. And I
Yeah.
think
I
these
mean, it's
days
really hard. It's really, really
it is
hard to
really hard.
not, because your mom will not, like, you may not care about what the auntie is saying, but you do care about what your mom is saying, right?
Yeah,
So, and then the mom cares about what the auntie is saying. So she'll make you care about what the auntie is
aunties are
saying.
saying.
But at some point you have to just kind of almost put on blinders to just focus on what you want to do.
Yes, and I think that not a lot of, people from you maybe white people understand this. They don't get the whole situation of your parents not supporting anything or not
Yeah.
understanding what you're invested in. Basically
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, yeah. I do see that a lot of other cultures and let's say North American lifestyle is very different, but like life is very, very complicated for us, right? There's a lot of expectations, and we understand that because our parents have sacrificed a lot. They've left homes for us, and it has come with good things and bad things. Um, and very confusing things also. But at the end of the day, if you have the opportunity, and not everyone does, but if you have the opportunity to follow your heart and kind of do what you want to do, and it's also like nobody knows what they really want to do till they do it, right? So you have to, especially at a younger age, go through phases where you've tried a whole bunch of things to really know if something is for you or not.
Yes, that does make sense. And moving on to the mental health aspect of it, how do you think that
Mm-hmm.
connection between mental health and space works? And how
Mm-hmm.
do you think that teenagers can work on making themselves feel better with everything going on?
Yeah, so it's a lot of what we've already discussed about how, let's say, if your space is cluttered, if your space does not feel like you, et cetera, that can take a toll on your mental health, right? So, like now we need to focus, especially given COVID, now we need to focus on how our space not only needs to be aesthetically pleasing, but also functional for us. So, keeping both of that in mind, what products work for us, what that space needs to look like. And that space will look very different for every person. And because you're actually your background and your story and your aesthetic and your feelings about many things are just very different from each other. And so, and no matter what your budget is, what would you do to make that space feel like home for yourself? So are you able to get a new table? Okay, get a new table. But if are you only able to rearrange the furniture and get a new cushion? Do that, right? Just or if you're even not able to do that, and if you're only able to, let's say, the least you can do, which you should do, is keep your space clean, dust free, and organized, right? That anyone can do, right? You don't need
Yes,
to have money for that.
yes,
You can go to the dollar store and get some organizing bins, right? And organize everything. It'll just make you feel better. Yeah.
yes, that's so true. And
Yeah.
moving on to our Teen Talks question of the day, which is if you
Yeah.
could say something to your younger self about any myth related to mental health, it can be
Hmm.
related to design or not. So, what would you
Hmm.
say to yourself and why?
Um, I would tell myself that everything will be okay and that I'm doing the best I, that I could at any given point, and that's enough. And that I should learn how to breathe a little bit better. Yeah,
That's
breathing is
such a
key.
good advice for teenagers, and I can feel that coming from you and how it came because there is so much pressure on us always that you need to do this much, and even after achieving a certain thing, I feel that okay,
Mm.
now since I have accomplished this, what is next?
Hmm.
We are
Oh
always
yeah,
on that
like
phase.
it always felt like, oh, like in your O level, you need to get X number of A's. Okay, great, you did that. Now it's time for your A levels. Now it's time for your university. Now it's time. So it's like there's never it never ends, right? So you kind of have to make
Yes,
peace with certain things yourself, and um you, first of all, grades don't really matter once you enter the adult world. What really matters is the kind of experiences you've had. So you just have to enjoy the ride, right? Yeah, that's all I can say.
I definitely agree. And that is such a good thing that you had mentioned this, because I think, even with home, you have to feel satisfied with the home you're currently living in. You can
Yeah.
reorganize that space. And I think with immigrant kids, I feel that, there is such a thing which was our first home. And now this new home, there is so much going on, and expect to, you can't expect a lot from your future that, okay, I'll make a better home this way. You need to be
Mm-hmm.
satisfied with where you currently are, and, make it your own home, not the whole
Yeah.
idea of getting,
It's
a
it's
bigger
just
home or
important to, yeah, it's just important to breathe, right? We sometimes forget. We literally, I used to forget to breathe. I still forget to breathe. And then your brain spirals into so many thoughts and so many things, right? So the minute that you stop and you breathe and you pause, things are okay. They can get better always, but that's okay. Like, you're okay. As long as you're safe and you're healthy, you're good. And everything else is a bonus, right?
yes. And with that, I can say that nowadays home is also a protection from
Mm-hmm.
everything that is going on, and you feel so much safer at home, and
Mm-hmm.
health wise also nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it can be claustrophobic just being at home also, but it's also away from everything that we is either a real or perceived threat, right? So it's your space.
Yes.
Yeah.
So lastly, what would you like to say to our audience about inertia teens?
I think you guys are doing such a great job. I love your enthusiasm and your insight, and I love that you are so passionate about this. And I hope to help you guys in the future in any way I can. And I really hope that everyone is able to benefit from our conversation.
So thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Teen Talks. You can watch our season 1 over here, and I hope you really had fun. And thank you.
It's just important to breathe, right? We sometimes forget. We literally, I used to forget to breathe.